Okay, everybody, and welcome to the start of our tutorial series where we're going to be introducing GameMaker 8.1 and how we can use this engine in order to make whatever it is that we want to make and how we can get the fundamental basics out of it. So the first section, this first tutorial 0, is going to be about just getting familiar with the interface and what we should expect and what we can use. First thing to notice is you'll get this option here, which is a welcome to the light version of it. We're just going to close that down. We're also going to close this tutorial pane on the right hand side. Quite useful if you do want to do some work at home, perhaps go through a few tutorials rather than the ones we're doing here. It's a useful tool, but not useful for us. You might also have an option that appears roughly here where it talks about the update channel, whether you're going to use the beta or the stable path. Please do click stable path when you do. That's probably a little bit in your interest to do so. First thing we're going to get familiar with is saving, opening, and creating sprites, objects, and rooms. On the left-hand side, you find the incredibly powerful pane that we're going to spend most of our time in today. Getting comfortable with what a sprite is. A sprite is nothing more than the graphic that represents an object. It's just the graphic. It's just the image. Could be an animation, but it's nothing more than the image. The objects are the actual way that you can give those images rules and properties and behaviors, and you can make those do things, and they're broken into events and into actions. Then finally, you've got the rooms. The rooms are the levels of your game, the actual structure of your game, where you can place your objects and make sure that you can progress from one level to the other. First things first, when you do file and save, notice that you'll do file save as. You can name your file however you see fit, and it will generate for you a file. It will generate a GameMaker 8.1 file. So you'll actually notice that I've now got this new test file which has been generated, and that is GameMaker 8.1 file. You'll need to take that with you if you're going from one machine to the other, and that's something that you'll need, a GameMaker GMM 8.1. So let's look at sprites. By right-clicking on any of these panels here, you can create something to do with them. So we're going to start with sprites. I'm going to right-click and create a sprite. Good practice to get into here is to name your sprites as you go, and there's a very particular convention that we're going to stick with here. Anything to do with sprites is going to be SPR underscore. We're going to start with a spaceship. So I'm going to go with SPR underscore spaceship. And what this is going to allow us to do is to have this graphic that's going to be our little spaceship that we're going to start with. You can load sprites, and you can pull these from any file at all on your computer, and they get saved within the GM 8.1 file, but it defaults to the one that's on your C drive, which is where GameMaker has installed itself. There's inside of the space section, you'll find a series of different graphics that you can use. I'm just going to grab one towards the bottom, this little small rocket. You can alternatively edit the sprite. So that's already created one in there, and if you wanted to double click on that graphic that we've now created, it will open up what I like to think of as baby paint. It's a very small version of paint, very simple graphic editor. You can use control and middle mouse to zoom in and to zoom out. You can make changes to it using any of the tools on the left hand side. You can change colours using the swatch and the palette on the right hand side over there. You can also use the transform tool to either stretch your canvas to make it larger or smaller. So if I wanted it twice the size, I could do that. Control Z to undo if you didn't. You can also transform, and you can rotate if you wanted by a set number of degrees. So quite a little useful tool, but we're not going to change that for now. I'm going to stick with the default, so tick and tick to say that we're done with that. I'm going to press OK to save that as that goes. I'm now going to create a new room, new object for my spaceship. So first thing I need to do here is, again, following the same convention we've just done, all sprites are going to start with SPR, all objects are going to start with OBJ. So I've got OBJ underscore spaceship. The way you attach your sprite to your new object you've created is by clicking on this small icon here and then selecting the only available sprite. As you get more sprites, that list will become longer. This column here is our events column, which is where we set up any triggers, anything that's going to actually start our game or to make this object perform a certain action. So you can see that here's the predefined ones, and we're going to be looking at those in more detail in the following tutorials. And then on the right hand side we have our actions. The only action that you are permitted during this entire year to put in this slot here is under control, and it's this code sample here. And we're going to be writing in code over time. So we can add a create event, and we're going to add some code, and we're going to type in code there, which we'll detail a little bit later on. The last thing we're going to look at is by right clicking and going to create room. And I'm going to name this room by right clicking on it again, rename level 1. Notice I haven't put a space in any of these. It's really important that we don't. And then enter to say when we're done. We have a lot of different properties here. We have the room settings, we have backgrounds. They're the principal things we're going to be looking at today, but there's a bunch of different settings that we can modify as well. I can place objects into this room by clicking on the Objects tab here, selecting the object that I want from the list. Again, we've only got one at the minute. Left clicking to place your object. Right clicking will allow you to delete it, and you can press Shift and hold down left mouse click, which will allow you to select or to paint multiple instances of that object. And then you can press Control and right click to delete them should you want to, if you've got a lot to go with. So I'm just going to place my little spaceship down there. That's the fundamental basics of getting comfortable with GameMaker.